Welcome back. Life in Abundance with the Gentrys, episode 11. And we have ourselves a good one today. We also made it past episode 10, which is a big moment in the podcast.
Episode 11 today.
Life. Yes. And we just got back from our coaching experience down south, and we listened to podcasts the whole way back, which Bree doesn't listen to podcasts, so she's getting
I do now. Yeah, I love Grant Cardone, and he fires me up. I listened to, who did he have on his that I said I wanted?
Kevin Hart?
Yeah, Kevin Hart.
Yeah, she was listening to it, and then she texted me, I need to get tickets to Kevin Hart. And I go, well, he's not touring right now. She's like, well, figure it out.
You said where, and I said anywhere.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, well, there's one problem.
There's one in Canada. That was about it. And so
exactly. Let's go.
Yeah. But yeah, so today we have a good one. It's piggybacking off some of the experiences we had in our 2-day council classes. For those of you who don't know, I have a performance coach, Garrett White, and I go down once a month, 2 days a week, and Bree has a hair council that his wife, Garrett's wife, Danielle, invented the technique that Bree does in NBR, and it's a 2-day classes that goes over body, being, balanced business, goes over marketing, all that stuff. And so this couple days, my class was on new, normal, and numb. And what that means is most people in life repeat that cycle of new, normal, and numb. Mm-hmm. I know for myself, I was the king of it. For example, like when you argue with your wife about the same thing over and over. What was our big arguments over the years? Or what was the one that kept coming up?
Money. Ugh.
Yes. So it was always like we would talk about it. I'd explode, talk about it. Then we have a game plan, which would be new. Then that game plan became normal. And then I was numb to it. And then I would freaking explode and blow it up again. And we start over, right?
Yeah.
And so what we were taught is that how do we get out of that vicious cycle of new, normal, and numb, right? And it's also what we need to do is take a minute and slow down and look ourselves in the mirror. Mm-hmm. You want to tell the story about the mirror exercise we did?
I'm still recovering from it. But yeah, basically everybody got on stage one at a time and went and looked at themselves head to toe in the mirror and just had to face some real hard truths. Yep. And we each had maybe a minute or two. And mind you, this was on the same stage that Mark and I had our couples therapy maybe 10 days prior to this. And so the stage is bringing up a lot of hard memories for me. A little bit of PTSD from the stage, things triggered there. So immediately our coach said, or when he said, we're going to go up on stage, my eyes started welling up with tears. I'm like, Brianna, get a grip. What is your problem? I couldn't hold it together. So in the process, I was like, okay, I can't go first. My girlfriend Nino goes first. She gets up there and she just owns the mirror. She pops the collar on her jacket. She fluffs her NBR. Like she knows she be looking good. And she's done the work. 4 months we've been in this class and my girl has elevated to levels like so quick. And she's doing the work. And I know she is because we do accountability calls weekly. So a couple people go and I just cannot catch my breath. I'm like, what is your problem, Bree? So then, of course, it's my turn. I walk across the stage. I look in the mirror and I just melt to pieces, guys. I just melted all over the floor, crying my eyes out. And it was a moment where I realized for once in this group of people, I didn't have to have it all together. Everywhere else in my life, from my home life to the salon, to, even my role, my placement in my family. I'm a middle child, but I'm the boss. They all do what I say, or at least I like to think so. But at that point, I just felt like I'm always carrying the responsibility and the weight. And for once, this group did not need me to do that. Yes, I'm paying for it, but also sitting there and knowing that I'm also receiving something out of this and I am going with no expectation. There's no expectation from me either that I have to bear the weight in this class. And that was so freeing, but I could finally be vulnerable and let some walls down that I have really spent years building to be able to be the strong powerhouse producer that I am. And that girl can't melt. She can't break, because she's still got to hold it all together in case somebody else doesn't come through. And I lived a lot of years like that. And so looking in the mirror and having to recognize that about myself was painful. It was painful to see that girl. But I know that I'm going to be a better coach for it. I'm going to be more approachable for it. And my coach, as he's been, walking me through what this process is going to look like, he's like, you're going to feel things you've never felt before. You're going to find this flood of emotion that you can't control because it's not in your control. But when you step into your greatest calling, that's what happens is God takes over, you become obedient and surrender, and all the other things make sense. And that's exactly what was happening for me. Things were aligning, things were making sense, but it took me a couple months to really get there. And he says, Bree, I need to bend you. You look too perfect. So we need to show people who you really are, because this hard wall, this shell that you've formed is who you've had to be, not who you want to be. And so as I am bending and melting and these walls are coming down, I've come to know myself in a different light than I've ever experienced. And it is a very odd experience. Also, I don't like, to be honest with you, because I don't feel like I'm in control. And I know that's exactly where God wants me right now. So it was a huge eye-opening experience for myself. And just, I think I went 5th in line or 4th in line or something. Every girl walked up there and just owned it. Like, oh, I know I'm doing the work. I know I'm living up to what the expectation is here. And for me, I just couldn't even look at myself, let alone look at myself and be strong. So it was huge for me, though. And it sounds simple, like just a task. You look in the mirror, what's the big deal? But it was so much deeper than that. And it really made me look at some hard realization, or come to some hard realizations about myself and all the years and trauma that I've been through that I'm trying to suppress, because every day I got to hold it together. So yeah, for me, that was my experience, and I'd be fine to not ever do it again.
Yeah, mine was in a room full of guys, and he had to take our shirts off and go up on stage and do that. It was the same exercise. And what's funny is when you first joined the class, when I did a couple years ago, one of the exercises is to stand in front of the mirror with your shirt off and ask yourself, have you been doing everything you possibly can? And so I did this in late 21, early 22. And to go on stage and see what I've done and with the discipline and integrity that I show up every day with, it's like night and day from how my body looks, the person I became, and the things that I've done, is just night and day. And so that was pretty, I hadn't stopped and actually done that and slowed down. And that's what came to mind for me, was doing the work looks a lot different when you're consistent with it and not always blowing it up every month, right? You're not getting numb to things and just, flying off the handle and ruining it, but actually doing the work every single day, chipping away, getting the wins every day. It's amazing what your life looks like in all aspects in your body being balanced in business.
Well, and when was the last time you could look in the mirror and not feel guilty? That was probably the first time in a long time, because you were doing all the things that you said to do.
Yeah.
You were being the guy, you having the body that you're telling people to have or, want, I guess. And I know that I had a few moments with our coach to kind of talk about Mark and the success and growth he's experienced in the last few months. And he says, that guy is so certain about his body and his capability. They did a workout before class, which we will not be doing. I want to clarify that in case he ever watches this. I will not participate in your nonsense and workout. But anyways, for Mark, he's like, oh, I got this, not a problem. And showed up ready to go because he's certain in what his body is capable of doing. And that is the way that we need to show up in every area of our life. But a lot of times we fall short and we don't, because you're not sure about who you are in your being, or your business isn't where you want it to be, or you're not being the best father or husband at the time. Looking in the mirror, you can say, I'm really doing everything I can to have it all and be aligned in all 4 areas. And I think that was huge for you in your mirror experience, if you will, because you could actually stand there and say that. And I know that took years of development. You know, consistency isn't something you have overnight. It's grown over time. And a lot of times we want this, you know, end goal, but really it's gained from consistency, and you have to allow this time space. And most people want to skip the time and just have the certainty, and it's not something you get the luxury of doing. And in that process, in that time frame, there's exercises and experiences, and it's just this contracting event constantly, just contracting, learning, growing, stretching, comfort. What is it? New, normal, numb. And numb. Yes, this guy with all his like 3 N's. I'm like, new, normal, numb. Okay, but anyways, I mean, I can definitely see how that plays into it. It's very true for us. Yeah,
you know, it's what I'm realizing is I always looked at the end result. Like you look at, you know, the money, or you look at the car or whatever, but you don't look at the person you become getting to that point, right?
Yep.
And that was one thing that was huge for me when Garrett was telling me when I decided to go into coaching. He wanted a number, and so I picked a big number, and he said, Mark, it's not about the money. It is about the money, but it's not. It's about the person you become getting to that point, right? And that really sank in with me because I was so always consumed with more money. What do I charge? All that kind of stuff. It's like, no, what the person you're going to become. And that's what I've seen in you with the salon and changing to MBR and all that. It's like, yes, the closing clients is a great thing, but it's about the person you become, knowing yourself, having conversations that are not easy to have when you're telling clients you've had for 20 years, hey, I can no longer do your hair anymore because I'm going this route, right? There's there's feelings, emotions, all those things, but it makes you a better it makes you more certain. It makes you more confident in what you believe in by having those conversations.
You know, it's so interesting when you say that. Like, God totally had control over that because I felt my business shifting in that direction. But then when I didn't feel strong enough to do it on my own, He made it very clear that was what I needed to do. My daughter was struggling in school socially at the time. We pulled her out of public school and put her in private school, and here right in front of our face, things were happening behind behind the scenes that we didn't realize. And I knew I needed to be more present in her life at that time in school. And as hard as it was for me to step away from the chair to then do extensions solely, God said, no, I'm making this way possible for you because there's no greater pull on a mama's heart than using your child to, need you more. That was easy for me to step away from the chair to do that. It was hard for me to transition color clients onto somebody else's book because I have a relationship with them. But God was in complete control over that, and I trusted Him through the process, and everybody, is happy. Eventually, like the sad truth is, if I died tomorrow, everybody would find a new hairdresser and they would be taken care of, and I made sure they were taken care of. But I had to be there to take care of my family, and He just made that possible for me. And so it was a new situation, and it slowly over time became normal. And now another opportunity has approached, and so now it's time to reassess and figure out what we're going to do. But this coaching opportunity has been huge for us because it wasn't exactly something we were looking for, but we have been feeling this calling, this urge on our heart to go. What is it? Go. What is it? I'm feeling that. And God just opened the door for us, and here we are. I mean, it was rather easy decision too, once it was like made clear that was what we were supposed to do.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny. The more disciplined you are and the more that you have integrity, the more certainty you have. And it's amazing that you don't go in cycles after that. And another thing I realized is you're supposed to go in cycles, like you said. I know I just kind of contradicted myself, but you should always be rising each year. You should always be getting better.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a contraction.
Yeah, there's a contraction. And most people think that, because I got to a certain point that I need to stop. But it's one of those things where you just got to keep going and growing and going and growing, but making sure that you're doing it the right way and not doing it because other people said it, but no, you're doing it because God wants you to do it. And so that's the big thing for me, is that I'm doing it, but it's at my speed. I'm not blowing things up in a bad way to not have it work again. And so we have a if you're on YouTube right now, we have a little guest that just walked in, our 4-year-old Sayla.
She's trying to be a part of this.
Trying to be a part of the show.
We're almost done.
We're almost done, babe.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Anyways, it is very true. Life happens in cycles, and as long as you can appreciate and respect the growth, give it the time it needs. Consistency happens over time, and the closer you get to the end goal, it's then time to reassess, maybe even change the direction, shift, pivot, whatever you need to do, and aim for the new target. What's the new target? And I think ultimately we all have the same. We want life in abundance, hence the name of our podcast. And I say that to make it sound simple, but that's something accumulated over a lifetime of growth, contracting, expanding, contracting, and I have to appreciate that also, even though it's intimidating at times. The growth hurts. I just talked about that, I posted something today. Mark and I did just a photo of him. I'm looking over his back, and I said, babe, I got your back. And that is the truth in our life. He's not always going to do everything right. I'm not always going to do everything right, but I'm still standing here. I still got your back because I'm willing to be honest with you. I'm willing to let you have space to grow, but we're going to do it together, and we're going to just every day realign with God because we're human and we fall short. And if you don't allow somebody that space either, you're putting somebody on a pedestal above God, and that's not even possible.
Yeah.
So you're going to always be disappointed.
For sure, yeah. We also had a thing where it was how you should view everything as God, you, and then them. So you should always put God first, and then yourself, and then them is your family, friends, those kind of things. And what I did for so many years was I put everybody else's opinions, feelings, what I thought of, all my jealousies, anxiety, all that above God and above myself. And that did me a disservice, because I wasn't able to hear God, and I wasn't doing myself a service by making it any better. And that's what created the vicious cycle of the new normal numb, and just kept going and going. And it was because I wasn't putting God first, and I wasn't asking him first. I was asking everyone else around me, hey, what do you think about this? And I was following them and not what God wanted. And it's been pretty amazing over the last probably 8 months to a year, but especially in the last 2 weeks when I've put the chips on the table. It's amazing what God and the certainty that I've been having because I've done all the work, right? Because I've been able to now accept the new normal in the right way instead of the wrong way, where I would blow up, I would get stress, anxiety, all that kind of stuff. Now I'm handling it the right way, and I have a clear path, and it's me and Bree are on the same page because I'm able to communicate that. Whereas before, God knows, I'd fly off the handle. I would yell. We would get nothing out of it. Then we go for 2 weeks of awkward weirdness between each other, and then it's all good. And then I do it again 2 months later. And so just breaking that cycle up and just creating certainty in my life and going to God first, and then working on myself, and then my wife. It's amazing how those cycles stop, and how you talk to each other, even how you fight is different. And you're just more clear, and you're more like a sniper.
Yeah, for sure. I think a good and bad thing this class has done for us is you now recognize the people in life who do this and who don't. It's so easy to say, God, your wife, then them. But if you live it or not, really the true testimony, if you do, is your fruit. And so I've become the best bullshit detector. I feel like when somebody talks, I instantly know if that's fabricated or not. Yeah. And it's hard because then when it is fabricated, you look at that person and you think, well, that's a lack of integrity, and that bothers me now, where before I didn't care so much. But now I recognize that, and I even think in the same way that I speak. Am I exaggerating, or is that a fact? Is that truth? And I am a huge exaggerator. I've come to know this about myself, that I'm always intensely telling a story, and I exaggerate it to make it more exciting. And then I'm wait a minute, I just actually lied. That was a lie. So it's over time, trained me now to recognize when something is not real, and no, I need to level up because I want my fruit to match my words. And that has been hard, because that is my personality. That is how I tell a story. That is how I get people to engage. And so I've just had to coach myself a little bit and reel it in. So yeah, it's been interesting.
Well, you text me while you're in class, like anxiety and regret is you out of alignment with your integrity.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. I had that moment on Saturday. I was by myself down south for a couple hours because Bree was coming down, and your mind goes into the bad spots, and you're not doing the work that you need to be doing on yourself, and then you get a little bit of anxiety, you get some regret, you get overwhelmed, right?
You get like the oh crap, what did I do?
Yeah, like oh my gosh, what did I just do? And I was waiting for it to come, and it hadn't come. And it was like I was coming off a high of a class, and I found out some other things that I could tweak that just opened it up pretty good. And I got into it, and it was like, man, I can't go back there. Like I cannot allow my mind to go back there. Yeah. And I got right back in, and that's what's cool about all the tools we have is the next, like that afternoon, the next day, I got right back on it and just stacked it and walked through it and separated my facts and feelings. These are the facts, these are the feelings. And then what's even crazier is Bree went to class, and Garrett stops Bree the first 5 minutes of class and is like, hey, I just want to let you know Mark's on the right track. He's doing everything right. It's like he's probably coming off a high right now, and he's probably regretting it. And Bree's like, are you reading my stacks?
I literally asked him in front of the class, have you been reading our stacks? Because we both were coming down and up and down from this council high. And he says everybody goes through it. He's going through the motions. This is what he's supposed to feel. This is what happens. I know it. I've done this for 15 years. He calls himself a black belt in this. Yeah. And I know it sounds like we're praising him, but really he's just brought so much light to our life, and he guided us there, but he didn't do the work for us. He just showed us the light. And once, we're in this conversation too of I need to push and pull, where I'm a big pusher. I'm going to push until something breaks. And he's like, Bree, you need to be okay retracting. It's fine to push, but you also need to be okay to pull. So anyways, going back to what you were saying, we were having this high and this low. And he says that's exactly what happens. And for Mark, I know his cycle. And it's just like he said, training for a fitness show. You're counting whatever you count. I don't know, weigh your food or whatever you do for that. And you're so routine and regiment with your diet. And then it snowballs because you have a Rice Krispie treat or whatever. It's not like then you go 4 days and don't eat, don't go backwards. Just get back on track and continue forward, because that consistency over time is going to get your body to where you want it to be. Not, eat too much right here and then go back and starve yourself for 4 days. And then what? Now your body's really thrown off and doesn't know what the heck you want it to do. So he's like, it's just like you get off track, get right back aligned. Get off track, get back right aligned. So that's something we have to practice daily and make a conscious effort to do, because it doesn't come natural. So it comes with discipline, consistency, habits, and all of those things over time. They don't have to be drastic. If you're making a big, huge, drastic change to move the pin, it's probably not the right one, So for us, we just little, chip away at the block every day, a little bit at a time.
Yep. Small wins daily.
That's right.
Big wins. I've learned so much about myself in the last 8-9 months, just doing the work, creating the discipline, creating the integrity every day, showing up, stop lying to myself. And that's the big one. Stop lying to myself, saying that I'm doing a good job or that I've done the best I can. That's been huge for me. And then now having I now see there's no I can kind of do that, right? It's like if you hear God in your head saying, hey, stop drinking, just stop drinking.
Don't ignore the voice. You regret it so much more.
And it's like, hey, if you've been struggling with eating and you're like, I shouldn't have fast food, just don't have fast food. I know it sounds really, really simple, but it is what I've realized from all this is just do what you say, and that's it.
Yeah.
And if you say you're not going to drink, just don't drink. If you say that you're going to not have fast food, don't have fast food. If you say that you're going to go to the gym, go to the gym.
Yep.
And another thing is if you want to do this and your spouse doesn't understand, that's okay. I'm like, babe, on Saturday, Sundays, I'm going to the gym at 6 a.m. I don't care what you say. I'm doing it. Thank you. And then I'll be home at 7:15. Perfect. Like, that is my thing. And she knows that. And so it's one of those things where you have to set boundaries and you have to set guidelines because this is making you better, right? Now, if I'm saying, hey, I'm going to the bar every Friday for 8 hours, like, probably not going to be the best thing.
That's not going to be the one that's going to fly.
Because I've done that before. That doesn't fly usually. So
I need this.
Yeah,
no, you don't.
Yeah. So more like, hey, I'm going to Bible study. I'm going to the gym. Okay, cool. I get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, it's to get out of that cycle of new, normal, numb, because the grass ain't always greener. We always think it is, or you think that things are going to change. If you don't have the tools, if you don't have the discipline, if you don't have the impossible goals that you want to set for all aspects of your life, it ain't going to happen. You're going to keep repeating the cycle of new, normal, and numb, and then blow it up and re-go. And that's what we want to avoid.
Yep, totally.
And what's amazing about that is that I've gotten out of it. I learned how to, like I said, I learned how to know when it's coming and I can stop it. And we have the tools that can help you. Like, I'm not going to help you. You're going to do it, and you're going to do the work with those tools. And we would love to help you. And if you're a female out there and you're like, man, this is me, then you can DM Bree at Blonde by Bree on Instagram. If you want to DM me, I'm Mark Gentry Training on Instagram. And we would love to just start the conversation to see where you're at. Because I know that these tools can help you, and I know that with the discipline and integrity that we're going to instill in you, you're going to have so much certainty in what you want in life that you'll never repeat the cycles and you will never go back there. I know that's a very, very bold statement, but I'm never going back to my old ways. Yep. And I have set such good habits and discipline, and I've showed Bree. I remember, I think it was like 2-3 weeks ago, we got in our first kind of fight since all this, like where I kind of went back to my old ways, and it scared Bree a little bit. And I had a conversation with her the next day. I said, hey, listen, like, I'm not going back there. Like, I know you see that, but I'm not going back there because I've set these ground rules for myself and discipline for myself that I'm not going back there. If I do go back there, it's like I have to really like go off the rails, right? It's kind of like when I have people do a diet. I'm like, hey, like, we're going to get you so dialed in that for you to go back to where you were, you're going to have to like do some serious damage. And so I can make a promise that if you do the work and you show up with integrity and discipline every single day, it will work.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I feel good about this. I'm excited for now the next 4 weeks of growth until we return again. And it's just, again, taking the tools that we've learned and implementing them into our life. And now it's like become a machine. You become a well-oiled machine that it's like so easy to put that one on the conveyor belt too, because it fits right in. That one can go right in, you know? And so when before you look at all these things you got to add or take away from your life, it's overwhelming. But when you do it slowly and you introduce these things that are healthy, it doesn't feel like you're taking anything away from your life. You're adding to it by adding value, and they're things that are important that every person looks for their whole life, and most of them never find, because it's going to take you to come down to some really hard truths to decide it's time for you to step up and do things differently, because what you're doing is not working in at least one area of your life. We all do it. We're not perfect by any means. We're not saying that we're never going to have, screw up, because we are. But we have the tools now to just knock you right back into alignment. So, yeah, if we can do anything for you, it's encourage you to work on you. Before you try and fix anyone else, work on you. And I can tell you right now, it is a contagious spirit when you are the one leading, because you're doing the work. Everyone around you is wondering, what the heck are you doing that's different? And then they want to be a part of it. It's a FOMO kind of thing. Yep. So it's nice to be in control of that. You can only control you. And when you are leading, most of the time people are going to follow. So we encourage you to do that yourself and take initiative, because a lot of people won't. It's just a proven fact. They won't. So, yeah.
So the homework before we talk next week is to get in front of the mirror and say, am I doing everything I possibly can in my body, being, balance, and business? And if the answer is no, then you need to DM Bree or I, and we need to have a conversation and get you rocking. If you are on YouTube, hit subscribe to this and a like. If you are listening to this on a podcast, please give us a 5-star like and a nice review. We would greatly appreciate it.
Yep.
Until next time, Life in Abundance with the Gentrys. This is Mark Gentry and my wife Bree, and we're signing off.
Good night.